And hello everyone, it is I, the Masked Ranger, and here we are with Chapter 22 of Empathy, Connections. In the last part, Hiro, Riley, Tip, and Baymax attempted to confront the Masked Man, and let's just say it didn't go well, and unfortunately, we are now down one lovely energy shield. Luckily, the rest of Hiro's friends turned up with the van that, had actually transformed into this story's version of Slushius from home. So, now that everyone is alive and having successfully escaped, they're going somewhere that I believe will be unveiled in this chapter. So, let's get started. Let's read. The engines of the van hummed as it skimmed across the tops of the large houses located in a secluded section of the city. As they went, the houses became larger and grander until they reached a particularly lavish mansion that seemed to take up acres of land right alongside the bay. "Right there!" Fred shouted over the whipping winds coming in through the empty doorframe and broken windows. "Bring it down in the back." "Seriously?" Gus questioned skeptically. "Here?" Tip questioned, glancing back at Fred from her position in the driver's seat, still seated on Wasabi's lap. "Seriously?" "Yeah, it's cool," Fred replied. "There's a helipad back there, so you can land without wrecking the lawn." Alright," Tip stated with a shrug as she brought the van around to the rear of the mansion. "Tip, wait," Honey said worriedly, as Tip stopped the van over the helipad. "I'm not sure we should be doing this." "It's fine, Honey," Fred said as the van began to lower to the ground. "We're all welcome here." "Listen, nitwit. A masked lunatic just tried to kill us," Gogo snapped, turning to face Fred as the van settled down on the helipad, her voice raising in volume as she went along. "So, I'm not in the mood for any—" Gogo was cut off as the side door to the van was suddenly pulled open, revealing a middle-aged man standing on the other side. He was tall and slim, with a rapidly receding hairline and a small black mustache. He was dressed in the classic uniform of a butler, with every article of his clothing pressed and immaculately clean. He eyed the occupants of the van with an impassive, unreadable expression before his eyes fell on Fred. "Welcome home, Master Frederick," the man greeted with a stuffy British accent. "Heathcliff, my man!" Fred exclaimed excitedly as he hopped out of the car and landed next to the butler, before turning his attention back to his friends in the van. "Come on in, guys. We'll be safe here." Turning back to Heathcliff, Fred raised his fist to the butler. "Give me some," Fred said, prompting the butler to bump fists with him. "Okay, looks like Fred is his own personal Alfred." As Fred began making his way towards the house, the others filed out of the van to follow suit. Before Wasabi exited the van, he turned it off, prompting the vehicle to return to its normal appearance. Exiting the van along with the others, paused to look up at Heathcliff, whose only reaction to the alien's appearance was to arc an eyebrow. Before they got out of the van, Hiro and Riley pushed up against Baymax's backside, eventually managing to dislodge the robot from the hole in the roof and send him tumbling to the ground. "You okay?" Riley questioned as she and Hiro stepped out of the van. "I am functioning optimally," Baymax stated as he picked himself up off the ground and looked himself over. "But my armor has sustained significant damage." "Why don't you take it off?" Hiro suggested. "No sense wearing it now." Baymax responded by quickly discarding his armor, setting it on the ground in as neat a pile as he could manage. When he was done, Baymax turned away from the pile and faced Heathcliff, who was watching the proceeding with a minimal amount of interest. Looking the man over, Baymax raised his fist towards the butler. "Fist bump?" Baymax prompted. Heathcliff responded with another raised eyebrow before raising his fist to Baymax. The robot replied by bumping fists with Heathcliff. "Ba la la la," Baymax said as he raised his hand towards his head and wiggled his fingers at Heathcliff, before promptly turning away and making his way towards the manor. Heathcliff watched Baymax go before turning to look at Hiro and Riley with a questioning expression. He's learning, Riley explained with an amused chuckle before the two of them began making their way towards the house. As they went, Riley couldn't help but notice the troubled emotions she sensed bouncing around in Hiro's head. So, that didn't really go as planned, did it? Riley suggested awkwardly. Not at all. Hiro sighed as he ran his hand through his hair. God, I can't believe how stupid I was to think that we could just take him like that. I know what the microbots are capable of. With the number he had, I should have known that he'd wipe the floor with Baymax. You were distracted, Riley stated. We all were. We all wanted to get this guy. Distracted is kind of an understatement, Riley, if I'm honest. I wanted to stop him from hurting other people, Hiro said as he stopped for a moment as he stared at the ground, prompting Riley to stop as well. Instead, I got practically everyone I still care about involved, and they almost died. Hiro raised his head and looked at Riley with frightened and sorrowful eyes. You almost died, Hiro continued. I saw you almost fall through the windshield. If Fred and Honey hadn't caught you, you would have... I don't know what I would have... Riley interrupted Hiro by stepping forward and pulling him into a hug. Hiro stood stunned for a moment before he returned the embrace. I mean, how could we not? Joy questioned rhetorically in Riley's head. I didn't die, Hiro, Riley stated as she pulled away from Hiro. None of us did. We're still here, and we're not going anywhere. A small smile spread across Hiro's features at her words, though Riley noticed that his emotional state did not change as much as she had hoped it would. Come on, Riley said as she nodded her head in the direction of the house. Let's go see what's up with Fred's big, fancy house. The inside of the mansion was just as grandiose as the outside had been, with walls covered in wallpaper decorated with elegant patterns and sporting masterfully painted works of art held in gilded frames. Together, the group made their way into a large entrance hall, where a split staircase covered in red carpet led to the second floor, a crystal chandelier hanging above it. You know, when I saw Fred at first when I was watching the film, I was expecting him to be in an average house, like a comic book geek. Not that I'm being stereotyped to all comic book geeks, it's just that it's the kind of house that I expect him to be. What I wasn't expecting Fred's house to be was a freaking large mansion! Jeez, his family must be rich! I wonder what Christmas is like at his mansion. That'd be interesting. So, Fred, Honey spoke up awkwardly as she and the others looked around in wonder. This is your house? Well, it's not my house exactly, Fred explained with a chuckle as he stopped in front of a painting depicting 3 people. One was clearly a younger version of Fred dressed in fancier clothes than any of them had ever seen him in. Along with him was a proper-looking woman with curly red hair and an older-looking man. Gray streaks running through his black hair, wearing a pair of yellow-tinted aviator sunglasses that were otherwise at odds with his posh attire. R.I.P. Stanley. Excelsior. Why do I recognize that guy? Anger questioned what Riley assumed was reference to Fred's father. He probably just has one of those faces, Fear replied. Technically, this place belongs to my parents, Fred continued as he gestured towards the painting before leading the group away. They're on vacay right now on the family island. Wait, what? Disgust said in surprise. Your family owns an island? Riley whispered in awe. Yeah, it's a sweet little piece down in the South Pacific, Fred confirmed nonchalantly before an idea seemed to strike him. You know, we should totally go sometime, frolic and stuff. Man, this whole time I was pretty convinced you lived under a bridge, Tip commented. I mean, if I had to choose, there is this righteous little overpass downtown, Fred mused as the group approached a set of double doors at the end of the hall. Total river coverage, and it's right next to my third favorite Chinese restaurant. Although if you were under an overpass, you wouldn't be able to get a job, which means you wouldn't be able to go to that restaurant. Sorry, I was just saying. I'm not sure I understand what's happening right now, Sandus commented. Welcome to the club, Anger replied. As the group approached the doors, they suddenly pulled open automatically with a hiss of air, revealing a spacious bedroom beyond. While some of the room was taken up by the king-size bed and the large sectional couch that was directed towards the plasma TV hanging from one of the walls, the rest occupied by an assortment of items that could only be described as nerdy. A few 7-foot-tall replicas of kaiju monsters and fighting robots took up the floor space, while large models of various science fiction vehicles hung suspended from the ceiling. One side of the room was occupied by a miniature library with half a dozen floor-to-ceiling bookshelves that held nothing other than hundreds upon hundreds of comic books. Another wall was dominated by shelves that acted as displays for dozens of mint-condition action figures. Hold on, if Fred's a comic book nerd, is he interested in anime and manga as well? I mean, think about it. Does he like Godzilla, Gundam, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what else? He-Man. Would he happen to My Little Pony? If he had a sister, I bet that they'd share the love of My Little Pony with each other. Alright, moving on. Together the group stood in silence for a long moment, their brains struggling to digest everything that lay before them. You have got to be kidding me, Gogo whispered to herself, less venom and more awe in her voice than she had intended. Taking a few steps away from the door, Honey examined one of the statues, quirking an eyebrow at a sign hung around its neck that seemed to have been written by Fred, informing himself that he should not be touching it. You know, if I hadn't just been attacked by a guy in a kabuki mask, this would be the weirdest thing I've seen all day, Wasabi commented as he looked over a painting hanging from the wall, which seemed to depict a muscle-bound Fred as a classic barbarian stereotype in a fantasy setting. I know, right? Just how freaking spoiled is Fred? And he's still a pretty chill guy, humble even. Props to him, wow. Just today? Gogo questioned as she stepped up beside Wasabi and looked at the painting as well. I'm never going to be able to forget this, you know, Wasabi muttered. My brain literally hates my eyes for seeing this. Walking past Wasabi and Gogo, Tip paused as she looked at something hanging above Fred's bed. Just having a drink. It appeared to be a corkboard with a number of photographs and news clippings attached to it, and connected to one another by red pieces of string. Most prominent was a picture of a man caught in silhouette, which displayed his pointed nose and hunched posture. Who could those belong to? It's on the tip of my tongue. Who is Gru? Tip read one of the news clippings beneath the picture before turning to Fred. What the heck is all this? Oh, Gru from Despicable Me! Awesome! I really love that film. I watched the first film, and I haven't seen the second and third ones yet. Not as interested in the little yellow minions as everyone else is, though. They got their own spin-off film, but I do find them alright. Oh, this is a project I've been working on, Fred explained as he hurried over the Tip side. You see, this guy Gru is apparently a master-class criminal. He's been in action for decades, tussled with superheroes back in the day, and even supposed to have made off with the crown jewels once, but he's never been caught and he's almost impossible to track down. Leaning down, Fred wrapped his arm around Tip's shoulders and pulled her closer. I even have it on good authority that he tried to steal the moon last year, Fred stage whispered, his eyes darting back and forth in a paranoid fashion. Which would make sense because Despicable Me was released, about either about 3 years or a year before Big Hero 6, in 2014. Nobody tried to steal the moon, Fred, Wasabi sighed from across the room. I have facts, Wasabi, Fred shouted as he whirled around and pointed an accusatory finger at his friends. Facts! Tip could only chuckle as she shook her head at Fred's antics. The truth is out there, Gratuity Tucci, Fred whispered before walking away. I'm sure it is, Tip replied with a snort. Looking at the things hanging from the walls as she wandered around the room, Riley paused as something caught her attention. Oh, you like that one, Fargo? Fred questioned as he walked up behind her, indicating towards a newspaper clip that hung in a frame on the wall. The first interview Metro Man ever gave. Roxanne Ritchie won a Pulitzer for it. I was so stoked when she autographed it that I didn't mind when she told me that she would get a restraining order against me if she ever saw me again. Wow, that's pretty cool, Fred, Riley answered with a chuckle as she shook her head before pointing at something. But I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at that. Crooking an eyebrow as he looked where Riley was pointing, a look of surprised amusement crossed Fred's face before he stepped around Riley and pulled what she was looking at off the wall so that the two of them could get a better look at it. As Fred held it in his hand, Riley could see that it was a mask of some kind, one specifically shaped like the face of a fox. The most notable thing about the mask was the fact that it was colored differently than the natural colors of a fox. It was mostly a creamy white, with red stripes on its cheeks and black tips on its ears. A fox kabuki mask. Interesting. Why do you have a fox mask? Riley questioned as she looked up at Fred. This one is Fred paused as a warm smile spread across his face. This is more of a keepsake than anything else. A keepsake for what? Riley asked. I first started really getting into superheroes when I was a kid, Fred explained wistfully. All superheroes, even the old fictional ones. Did you know that Zorro means fox in Spanish? Like those old movies about the Spanish swashbuckler? Riley questioned with a smirk. The very same, Fred confirmed with a nod. Anyway, when I did, my dad went out and bought me this. Said it could be my disguise when I went out to fight crime. You could be the fox, Riley suggested. How does the name the White Fox sound? Well, according to my dad, it's not a fox, Fred explained with a shake of his head. It's something from Japanese folklore called a kitsune. Riley finished for him, causing Fred to quirk an eyebrow at her. Gogo was one tattooed on her shoulder. I thought it was pretty cool, so I did some reading about them afterwards. Shiro Kitsune. That would be a perfect name for a superhero. I'll keep it in mind. Right, Fred replied as he nodded in understanding. I forgot about that. It's nice that your dad would get something like that for you, Riley commented as Fred hung the mask back up on the wall. Yeah, my dad taught me a lot of things, Fred agreed. Most importantly, that if you have the power to help people, you have the responsibility to use it. That's true, Fred. That's true. As Riley digested Fred's words, a thought came to her. Do you think we should ask? Sadness questioned. I don't think we're going to get a better chance than this, Joy replied. Fred, Riley spoke up, bringing Fred's attention towards her, though she did not look at him as she spoke. When I was recovering from the fire, my mom took me to see a counselor. After the first session, I overheard the counselor say that the session had already been paid for. Riley paused as she looked up at Fred. Was that you? Riley questioned quietly. A smile slowly spread across Fred's features. Fred paid for the counseling. Fred paid for all the sessions. He has a crud ton of money, and he still uses it to help others. Not just for himself. What's the point of having money if you don't use it, Fargo? Fred questioned with a shrug. Called it! Riley smiled and pulled him into a quick hug. Yep. It's official. Fred is now my favorite character in this story. Takahito is my favorite, but Fred is now my absolute favorite. That's what I like about people in the world that do this sort of things. They're rich and have all this money, and yet what they do with it is help others, help the environment, do great contributions to the world with it. Those are the kind of people that you should look for in the world, and what I should look out for too. Walking up to one of the bookshelves, Hiro pulled one of the comic books out so that he could get a better look at it. The comic was held in a plastic sleeve, clearly meant to protect it from damage. On the cover was a powerfully built, blond man who was dressed in a blue and black spandex suit with a lowercase I on the chest. The man was striking a heroic pose and looking off into the distance, while bold type above his head declared him to be Mr. Incredible. Hey, Hiro, be careful with that, Fred called from across the room as he approached the boy. That's a mint condition, first issue. Sorry, man, Hiro replied with a chuckle as he placed the comic book back on the shelf. As he did, Hiro glanced over at one of the cases set into the wall, and his eyes widened with surprise as he got a look at what it contained. A seemingly innocuous piece of metal with an inscription written beneath it. Wait, is this... Hiro began to say before stopping himself and shaking his head. No way, it can't be. It totally is, Fred confirmed with a nod as he walked over to Hiro's side. That is a 100% authentic piece of Galaxar's probe robot. I even got a shot from the news footage of the exact moment that Ginormica knocked it off. My dream is to get it autographed. Permission to squeal? Granted. Okay. Incredibles and Incredibles 2 are my two favorite Pixar movies in all time, and Monsters vs. Aliens is one of my favorite DreamWorks movies of all time. And its 10th anniversary. It's right around the corner. I hope I get to see Monsters vs. Aliens 2. I hope I'll get the chance to see Monsters vs. Aliens again next year. Or at least buy a copy of the DVD. I remember watching that movie when I was really young and I enjoyed it. I even played the PS2 game of Monsters vs. Aliens when it came out, and I managed to complete it all the way through. I found it a lot of fun. Nostalgic memories. Anyway, let's continue. But I thought Kraytech and the government locked all this stuff down after the Battle of the Bay, Hiro questioned in confusion. Stuff like this always slips through the cracks, Fred explained with a shrug. I know some guys who were selling pieces from Galaxar's ship after they blew it up. Excuse me? O spoke up from a different part of the room. What was that you were saying? What, about Galaxar's ship blowing up? Fred questioned. Yes, that is the thing you had been saying, O confirmed as he walked over to them. Yeah, this big, mean alien dude named Galaxar came down to... Fred started to say. I am knowing who Galaxar is, O interrupted, his attitude uneasy and subdued. Guess the guy had a bit of a reputation, Hiro commented. Oh, I just realized. Do you know how in Monsters vs. Aliens there was a big battle in San Francisco that eventually took place over the Golden Gate Bridge? In this story, it must have taken place in San Francisco. The events of a lot of DreamWorks and Disney Pixar animated films must take place in this universe. Mind officially blown. In a manner of speakings, O replied, his expression turning uncertain. You said he came's here. Yeah, he came down looking for some meteorite or something, Hiro explained. He got his ship blown up instead. And that's his being it. Oh questioned. He's been bloated up. Yeah, pretty much, Fred replied with a shrug before he and Hiro shared a glance. Why? No reasons you must be worried about, O replied with a shake of his head before he wandered off to a different part of the room. Is that something we should be worried about? Fred questioned as he quirked an eyebrow at Hiro. I doubt it, Hiro replied with a shake of his head before he walked over to a table that sat by the couch, grabbing a straight piece of paper and a pencil as he went. Besides, we have our own problems to worry about. Yep, that's true. First we deal with the Masked Man, then, we can see about finally getting Monsters vs. Aliens to that sequel. It's had long overdue. Sitting at the table, Hiro quickly sketched the symbol he had seen on the piece of machinery the Masked Man had recovered. Does this symbol mean anything to you guys? Hiro questioned as he held the paper up for the others to see, prompting them to gather around him. Yes! Fred exclaimed excitedly. It's a bird! No, that's not what he means, Tip explained with a sigh. The guy in the mask was carrying something that had this symbol on it. Okay, so hold up, Gogo said. Explain to us what the hell was going on tonight. You mentioned that this guy, he started the fire? Yeah, Hiro confirmed quietly with a nod. He must have wanted my microbots. And he's responsible for what happened to Tadashi and Callahan. That means, Wasabi whispered, his eyes widening in realization. Guys, did I just predict the future again? He killed Tadashi. Honey finished for him, and Riley sensed an intense wave of sadness and anger rush out of the young woman as she stared at the floor while wrapping her arms tightly around herself. Consider my own question answered. Whoa, Edgar commented. That was something, all right. Obviously, Honey and Tadashi had been dating. And now he's tried to kill us, Fred added, his expression pensive before he wandered over to his bookshelves. This still doesn't explain what you five were doing down at the docks tonight, Gogo pointed out. That's my fault, Hiro admitted as he stood up from his seat and faced the others. We went to the police when we first found out about this guy, but they didn't believe us. So, I figured if I gave Baymax some upgrades, we could take him down ourselves. And get justice for Tadashi and Callahan. Take him down? Wasabi questioned as he quirked an eyebrow at Hiro. Apprehending the man in the mask will improve Hiro's emotional state, Baymax stated. Apprehend him? Gogo parroted in surprise. The guy swatted us around like we were nothing. You think you could still bring him down after that? To say nothing about the fact you're missing a few crucial bits of information, Wasabi added. Like who this guy is. Yeah. Anyone could be the man in the mask. And, I know this probably won't be true, but I was about to suggest that there could be two men in masks with the same mask, but I don't think that's really possible. Supervillains like this don't go working with others at first. They try to get some common ground as villains before they can make any plans about team working with other up-and-coming supervillains. I have a theory, Fred declared as he approached the group holding a stack of comics that he quickly handed out to the others. Dr. Slaughter, M.D.? Wasabi questioned as he looked down at the comic Fred handed him. Actually millionaire weapons designer Malcolm Chazeltek, Fred explained. Oh, Chazeltek. What kind of name is that? That sounds like an interesting name. The Annihilator? Tip spoke up as she glanced between Fred and the comic. Behind the mask, he's industrialist Reed Axworthy, Fred elaborated. Chazotech and Axworthy. Interesting. Okay, seriously, what the hell is the point of this, Fred? Gogo questioned hotly as she tossed the comic he had handed her aside. Don't you guys get it? Fred questioned with a shrug of his shoulders as he approached his television, picking up the remote control as he went. The man in the mask who attacked us is none other than... As Fred spoke, he used the remote to turn on the television, which began projecting the image of a newscast focusing on Alistair Cray. Alistair Cray! Fred exclaimed. No. Just... no. What? Wasabi asked in confusion. Think about it, Fred implored. Cray wanted Hiro's microbots, but Hiro said no. But rules don't apply to a man like Cray. I mean, we already know that Craytech were running some shady alien experiments on O. But if he just wanted to steal Hiro's microbots, what was he doing at the docks tonight? Riley questioned. What was that machine we saw him pulling out of the bay? More alien tech? Tip suggested. No, it was definitely something built on this planet, Hiro argued with a shake of his head. And Cray is way too high profile to have pulled something like this. I think there's another problem with this idea, Honey stated, bringing everyone's attention to her as she pointed at the television. Look. Following her gaze, the others watched as the newscast continued with a banner reading, Millionaire Business Owner Missing. Turn it up, Gogo said to Fred, prompting the young man to use the remote to raise the television's volume. If you're just joining us, our top story tonight is the apparent kidnapping of tech mogul Alistair Cray, the newscaster stated. Police were called to the site of Cray's multi-million-dollar home on the outskirts of San Francisco earlier this evening, and have discovered evidence of a struggle and no sign of the businessman. We will keep you up to date as more information becomes available. Well, so much for that idea, Tip commented. If Cray isn't the man in the mask, then who is? Honey questioned. I don't know, Hiro admitted with a sigh of defeat. We don't know anything about this guy. His blood type is AB negative, Baymax suddenly spoke up, grabbing everyone's attention as he did. Cholesterol levels are... Baymax, you scanned him? Hiro interrupted in astonishment as he walked over to the robot. I am programmed to assess everyone's healthcare needs, Baymax explained as he displayed an image of the masked man on his chest, biometric data appearing next to the image. Whoa. Yes! Hiro exclaimed excitedly as he grabbed Baymax by the belly and shook him a little. I don't get it, Tip spoke up. Why is it a big deal that Baymax knows this guy needs to lay off the red meat? I can use the data from his scan to find him, Hiro elaborated. But for that to work, wouldn't you have to scan everyone in San Francisco? Riley questioned. Because that would only take, I don't know, forever, Gogo added sarcastically. I know, Hiro groaned as he began wandering around the room, racking his brain for an answer. I just have to look at this from another angle. If only there was a way to scan everyone at the same time, Riley mused with a sigh. That's it! Hiro exclaimed excitedly as he spun around and pointed at Riley. I can scan everyone in the city. I just need to upgrade Baymax's scanner. Riley's ideas are endless, aren't they? The muse strikes again, Fred commented with a chuckle. Looking back at his friends, Hiro couldn't help but smile as he looked at them all gathered by the couch. As he continued to look at them, though, a thought occurred to him. Actually, if we're going to take this guy down, I'm going to have to upgrade all of you, Hiro announced. Upgrade who now? Wasabi questioned in confusion as he raised an eyebrow at Hiro, mimicking the surprised looks everyone else was giving the boy as well. Ooh, I think I know what this is. Those who suffer a loss require support from friends and loved ones, Baymax stated. True. Oh man, Fred said, bouncing on his toes like a giddy child. I like where this is going. I don't, Fear mumbled. We can't go against this guy, Hiro, Wasabi argued. We're nerds. Speak for yourself, Tip commented with a smirk. Hiro, how can we help? Riley questioned as she looked around at the others, worry clear on her features. We're just us. Just us? Fred questioned as he turned towards the others, an incredulous look on his face. Seriously? Way to sell yourself short, guys. What do you mean? Honey asked with confusion. Look at this team we've got here, Fred exclaimed as he waved his hands around at the others. Hiro is a boy genius inventor. Wasabi is a theoretical physicist with a black belt in karate. Gogo is a brilliant engineer and as badass as they come. Honey is the greatest chemist of her generation, if not others. Fargo has literal superpowers. Tip just piloted a hover car like she's been doing it her whole life. Baymax is a state-of-the-art android and O is a freaking alien. What about you, Fred? Gogo questioned with an amused smirk. What do you bring to the table? Well, as you may have guessed, I'm not a fan of flaunting my family's wealth, Fred answered as he rubbed the tips of his thumb, fore and middle finger together. But somebody has to fund this operation. If we work together, we can be way more than even all of that, Hiro added. Where is all of this coming from? Riley questioned with an amused smile. I tried doing this alone and it didn't work. Something you warned me about, Hiro explained. Ever since the fire, you guys have been trying to be there for me, and now, I think it's about time I let you. Besides, even though Fred is the supers expert here, I've watched a newsreel or two in my day, and I know if there's a threat that one hero can't handle on their own, they put a team together. A look of uncertainty clung to the group's expression, and Riley could feel their apprehension and fear. At the same time, she could feel the determination and desire to help hiding underneath, something that caused her to steel her own resolve. Tadashi was our friend, Riley spoke up, pausing as she glanced at Honey and Hiro. To some of us, he was more than that. Either way, we owe it to him to bring the guy to justice. In fact, we owe it more than him. We owe it to more than him. This guy is up to something, and if we don't stop him, people are going to get hurt. A lot of people. Maybe people we care about. As Riley spoke, Hiro's expression changed to one of concern as he looked at her, before he glanced away with a pensive expression. All right, Fargo. Looks like you two have sold me, Gogo stated with a smirk as she placed her hands on her hips. I'm in. We're all in, Wasabi amended as he crossed his arms over his chest. For Tadashi, and for everyone else, Honey confirmed as she clasped her hands together over her chest. Riley smiled at them before turning towards Tip and giving her friend a questioning look. You think, after everything I've seen, I'm going to back out now? Tip questioned as she quirked an eyebrow at Riley. You must be out of your mind. Oh, this is so awesome, guys, Fred exclaimed giddily. Can you feel it? Our origin story begins! Big Hero 9, because there's now 9 members. The original Big Hero 6 was Hiro, Baymax, Fred, Wasabi, Gogo, and Honey. In this story, however, it is now Hiro, Baymax, Wasabi, Fred, Gogo, Honey, Riley, Tip, and O. 6 plus 3 equals 9. Big Hero 9. Here's the office note for you guys. Another fun chapter to write, mostly because I got to confirm a lot of what you guys have been guessing for a while now. That's right, Finmonster. As usual, you have done a spectacular job, and I can't wait to read more. But, as always, until the next time, I'm the Masked Ranger, saying, Have a great day, and keep moving forward.